There's a quiet truth introverts rarely say out loud. You can be surrounded by people who care about you and still feel like you're standing on the outside of your own life. It's not loneliness, it's not rejection. It's a different kind of distance, the kind that comes from seeing the world in layers while everyone else is content with the surface. And once you feel that, nothing ever quite feels simple again. Introverts carry an inner world so rich, so textured, so complex that very few people ever get close enough to truly understand it. They think deeply, feel intensely, and observe quietly, and because of that, connection becomes something rare instead of automatic. Even love doesn't erase the sense of being different, because introverts don't just want to be included, they want to be understood. And that level of understanding is something most people never learned how to give. So they smile, they show up, they play the role the world expects, while a quieter version of them stands behind the scenes, watching everything with a calm awareness that no one else notices. The outsider feeling isn't about not belonging, it's about belonging in a deeper way than most people know how to offer. It's about wanting conversations that mean something, wanting presence instead of noise, wanting depth instead of routine. And until they find that, even the warmest room can feel slightly cold. This resonates with you, you're not strange. You're simply wired for depth in a world obsessed with the surface. Let me know in the comments, do you feel like an outsider even around people who love you? Why or why not? And if you want more videos made for minds like yours, make sure you subscribe. The quieter your world feels, the more this channel will feel like home. They have an inner world so deep that few people ever truly understand it. For an introvert, the real world isn't the one people see, it's the one they carry inside. It's a world made of layered thoughts, quiet reflections, long memories, and emotional landscapes that stretch farther than anything they could ever explain. While others move through life at full volume, introverts live in a place that feels slower, richer, and more meaningful. They're constantly processing the past, the present, the energy of a room, the intentions behind someone's tone, the weight of their own emotions. This depth becomes both their greatest strength and the reason they often feel slightly out of sync with the people around them. Most conversations skim the surface, while their mind drifts naturally toward what lies beneath it. This inner world is not something they choose, it's simply how their brain works. They connect dots others never notice, sense emotional patterns before anyone speaks, and imagine possibilities that go far beyond the moment they're in. Because they think in themes, not moments, and feel in currents, not waves. Their internal experiences rarely match the simplicity of what people see on the outside. So even when someone loves them deeply, that person may only be touching the shoreline of an ocean-sized mind. Introverts often don't reveal everything they feel or think, not because they're hiding, but because there are no quick ways to translate something so intricate into everyday language. This creates a subtle emotional gap one the introvert feels even if no one else does. They can sit with people they care about, laugh with friends, share memories with family, yet still feel like there's a part of them that remains unseen. It isn't loneliness, it's the quiet awareness that their deepest thoughts live in a space only they can access. And that depth makes them different in ways that are difficult to articulate. They're not trying to be mysterious or distant, they simply carry more within them than most people ever ask about or imagine. Their mind is always moving, weaving meaning, replaying moments, building understanding. And because few people meet them at that depth, introverts often grow used to standing slightly outside the circle, even when they're invited in. They don't want crowds, they want connection, not attention, resonance, not conversation, understanding. And until they find someone who can step into their inner world with genuine curiosity, that sense of being other, of being beautifully different, remains with them everywhere they go. They bond through emotional resonance, not proximity, and that kind of connection is rare. For introverts, closeness doesn't come from being in the same room, sharing the same routine, or filling silence with conversation. Their version of connection is slower, deeper, quieter, built not from proximity, but from emotional resonance. They bond with people whose energy feels familiar, whose presence doesn't overwhelm, whose words carry sincerity instead of noise. When an introvert meets someone who speaks with intention, listens without rushing, and feels without performing, something inside them relaxes. It's rare, but unmistakable. A sense of being understood without needing to translate themselves. A feeling of safety that doesn't require effort. Emotional resonance. That's what opens the door, and because it's so rare, introverts often move through life with far fewer connections than people expect. Most relationships in the world are built on convenience: coworkers, neighbors, family gatherings, shared interests. But introverts don't bond through circumstance, they bond through depth. They need conversations that don't skim the surface, moments that feel real instead of forced, and interactions where they don't have to shrink or stretch themselves to fit the dynamic. They crave authenticity, subtlety, emotional intelligence, qualities that don't appear in everyone. This means they can spend time with people they love and still feel unseen. They can laugh, talk, and participate, yet remain disconnected at the level where their true self lives. And that quiet mismatch creates the outsider feeling they know so well. When emotional resonance does happen, it's transformative. An introvert will open up in ways that surprise even themselves. Their guard falls, their thoughts flow freely, their expression softens, and they let someone into the inner space they protect so fiercely. They don't need constant communication, they need emotional alignment. They don't demand attention, they look for presence. They don't chase relationships, they recognize the rare ones instantly and cherish them. But because such alignment is so uncommon, introverts spend long periods feeling like they're waiting for a frequency that almost no one else is tuned to. This rarity shapes their social life more than people realize. It's why introverts value solitude, not because they dislike people, but because solitude is the only place where they feel fully aligned with themselves. It's why they can love someone and still feel distant, because love isn't the same as resonance. It's why they often hold back, not from fear, but from longing for something deeper than most are willing to give. For an introvert, connection is not about being surrounded, it's about being matched. And until that match appears, they remain on the edges, patient, observant, and quietly hoping someone will finally meet them where they live. They feel drained by surface level interactions, making them feel separate, even in a crowd. For introverts, surface level interactions feel like trying to breathe in a room with thin air, possible but exhausting. They can smile, participate, and hold polite conversations, but every moment feels like a performance they didn't audition for. Small talk requires them to stretch their energy outward, to stay on, to mirror social expectations that never quite feel natural. And because most social environments rely on these light, quick exchanges, introverts often find themselves fading internally while appearing perfectly present on the outside. The deeper parts of them, the reflective, intuitive, emotionally layered parts, shut down when the conversation stays shallow. It's not that they dislike people, it's that they feel disconnected from the version of themselves they must become in these interactions. In a crowded room, an introvert can look like they belong, standing among friends, contributing to the moment, blending into the rhythm of the atmosphere. But inside, they may feel like observers instead of participants. The noise, the rapid conversations, the shifting social dynamics all drain their mental and emotional bandwidth. They're taking in everything: tone, behavior, sincerity, energy, while also trying to navigate the script of casual socializing. And that internal processing drains them far more quickly than anyone realizes. By the time others feel warmed up, the introvert is already searching for a quiet corner where they can breathe their way back to themselves. This constant contrast creates emotional distance, even in the midst of togetherness. While others bond through shared activity or light conversation, introverts bond through meaning. They need conversations where someone asks how they really feel, not just how their day was. They crave a moment of emotional presence, something real enough to pierce through the layers of noise. But when the environment never reaches that level, when everything stays at the surface, introverts instinctively withdraw into their inner world, a place that feels richer, quieter, and far more honest than anything happening around them. The result is a subtle yet persistent sense of separateness. An introvert can be surrounded by people they genuinely care about and still feel alone, not because love is missing, but because depth is missing. Their energy flows inward, not outward. And when they can't connect meaningfully, they disconnect internally to conserve themselves. It's a survival instinct, not a rejection. And until someone offers a moment of sincerity or a conversation with real emotional gravity, the introvert remains on the edge of the room, within reach, but quietly distant, preserving the parts of themselves that surface-level interactions can't touch. They observe more than they participate, which creates invisible distance. Introverts don't enter a room the way most people do. They don't search for the spotlight or try to merge with the noise. Instead, they step into a space and immediately begin absorbing it. Every expression, every shift in tone, every unspoken tension becomes part of an internal map they quietly build. While others dive into conversation, introverts settle into the rhythm of observation. This isn't hesitation or discomfort, it's how they understand the world. By watching, first, they learn who's genuine, who's posturing, who's uncomfortable, who's pretending. But this natural instinct to observe rather than perform creates a subtle emotional barrier. People sense their quietness before they sense their depth and confuse the two. From the outside, it looks like introverts are simply holding back, but inside, they're fully alert. They're reading the atmosphere the way others read words. They notice patterns, micro reactions, inconsistencies, and truths that slip past most people's awareness. And because they're processing so much, they often don't feel the impulse to jump into conversations just to fill the silence. They wait until they actually have something meaningful to add. Unfortunately, the world is more accustomed to those who speak first and think later. So an introvert's silence is often misinterpreted. People assume they're uninterested, distant, shy, or even judgmental, when in reality, they're simply taking everything in. This habit of observing creates a kind of invisible distance. It's not emotional withdrawal, nor is it a desire to be left alone. It's the natural space that forms when someone is watching the room instead of performing in it. The introvert exists one layer removed, present but not fully immersed, connected yet not entangled, and others feel that difference, even if they can't explain it. They may describe the introvert as mysterious or hard to read simply because they aren't broadcasting their emotions the way most people do. Their thoughts stay behind their eyes, not on their tongue, and that makes others lean in, curious yet unsure. Over time, this distance becomes part of how introverts move through the world. They participate selectively, speak intentionally, and reveal themselves sparingly. Not because they're hiding, but because they value authenticity more than attention. To truly reach them, people must slow down, look closer, and meet them where they actually are, in the quiet space between observing and belonging. They struggle to express their true thoughts because they think in layers, not lines. Introverts don't think in straight sentences. They think in constellations. One idea connects to another, which connects to a memory, which connects to an emotion, which connects to a deeper truth that most people never even pause long enough to notice. Their mind doesn't move linearly. It moves inward, downward, and outward all at once. So when someone casually asks, "What's wrong?" or "What do you think?" the introvert is suddenly faced with the impossible task of turning a layered internal universe into a few simple words. What they feel is rarely singular, what they think is rarely direct, and trying to compress all of that into quick conversation leaves them feeling misunderstood before they even begin. This isn't avoidance or secrecy, it's translation. Their thoughts come wrapped in nuance, shaped by reflection, influenced by emotional undertones, and tethered to insights they've gathered from silent observation. They want to express themselves accurately, not impulsively. They search for the right words, not just any words, and because they crave clarity, they often hesitate rather than speak prematurely. While others fill silence with half-formed thoughts, introverts sit with theirs, untangling the layers so what they share will actually mean something. But in a world that expects fast answers and constant verbal engagement, this inward depth can make them seem distant or complicated. The struggle becomes more pronounced when the topic touches something personal. Introverts don't reveal their inner world easily because it feels sacred, a place shaped by long reflection and emotional honesty. They worry that speaking too quickly will flatten something that deserves depth. They fear being misunderstood, not out of insecurity, but because their truth carries weight they don't want to see minimized. So they hold back, fine-tuning their thoughts privately, waiting for a moment that feels safe enough to unfold the layers without being rushed or dismissed. This careful internal processing creates a gap between what they feel and what others hear. Loved ones may sense the introvert is holding something back, when in reality, they are simply still trying to translate complexity into simplicity. Their silence is not avoidance, it is precision. Their pause is not disconnection, it is attention. And when they finally do speak, their words often carry a depth that others can feel, even if they don't fully understand where it came from. Introverts think in layers because that is how they understand the world deeply, thoroughly, and intentionally. And until someone learns to slow down long enough to meet them in that depth, expressing their true thoughts will always feel like trying to fit an ocean into a single drop. They need solitude to feel like themselves, which others misinterpret as disconnection. For introverts, solitude isn't a luxury, it's oxygen. It's the one place where their mind stops absorbing, their heart stops adjusting to everyone else's emotions, and their energy finally settles back into its natural rhythm. In silence, they reconnect with themselves, they process the thoughts they held onto all day, unwind the emotional threads they picked up unconsciously, and sort through the inner complexities that make up their world. Solitude isn't about escaping people, it's about returning to themselves. Without it, they feel scattered, overstimulated, and emotionally off-center. With it, they feel whole again. But to others, this need for quiet can look like distance. People who thrive on constant interaction often misinterpret introverts' withdrawal as rejection or disinterest. They may think the introvert is pulling away, losing affection, or disconnecting emotionally, but introverts aren't retreating from the relationship. They're retreating into themselves to refill what social life inevitably drains. Solitude is their reset button, their emotional detox, their chance to breathe without performing, responding, or adapting. It's the moment where their inner world becomes clear again, untouched by noise or expectation. This misunderstanding creates tension, even in loving relationships. An introvert who needs space may worry about hurting someone. A partner or friend may wonder what they did wrong. But the truth is simpler and far less personal. Introverts cannot show up fully unless they've had time to retreat. Their love is deeper when they've had room to be quiet. Their presence is stronger when they've had space to regroup. Their mind is clearer, their emotions are steadier, and their empathy is more genuine after solitude has restored them. They don't withdraw to disconnect, they withdraw to come back better. The challenge is that many people equate closeness with constant interaction. They expect availability, conversation, togetherness, signs that someone cares. Introverts show care differently. They show it by returning after they've rebalanced, by offering their full attention instead of divided energy, by choosing quality over quantity. But because this rhythm isn't common, they spend much of their lives feeling misunderstood. The world praises loudness and visibility, forgetting that some of the strongest connections are built in quiet understanding. Solitude is not the introvert's escape from others, it is their reunion with themselves. When someone finally understands this, truly understands it, the introvert no longer feels like they're choosing between their relationships and their inner peace. They can have both. They can belong without disappearing, and they can love without losing the quiet that makes them who they are. They love differently, quietly, intensely, and selectively, which sets them apart from most people. Introverts don't love with noise, performance, or constant displays. Their love is quieter, deeper, and far more intentional than most people ever experience. When they care for someone, it isn't casual or impulsive, it's the result of long observation, emotional resonance, and a sense of safety that took time to build. They don't let just anyone close because their inner world is sacred and fragile, and opening it requires trust that can't be rushed. But once they let someone in, that connection becomes one of the most profound bonds that person will ever feel. Their love feels like calm certainty, like emotional stillness, like being understood without having to speak. It's not loud, but it's powerful. It's not dramatic, but it lasts. Yet this quiet intensity often sets them apart. People who expect affection to be loud or visible may overlook the depth behind an introvert's subtle gestures. They don't always say, "I love you" in emotional waves. They express it in consistency, thoughtful actions, silent support, and attention to the smallest details. They remember things you forgot you said. They notice when your energy shifts. They listen without interrupting, comfort without overwhelming, and show loyalty without announcing it. But because their love doesn't fit the common script, many mistake them for being distant or reserved. They aren't distant, they're deliberate. They aren't withholding. They're selective with a heart that doesn't open for just anyone. Their intensity also means they feel everything more vividly: joy, fear, loss, connection. Loving for them isn't light or casual, it's immersive. They don't halfway care, halfway trust, or halfway commit. They either step in fully or not at all. That intensity is beautiful, but it can also make them feel like outsiders. Many people aren't prepared for a bond that deep, a connection built on emotional truth rather than routine. Introverts often find themselves loving in a way that others don't immediately understand: quiet loyalty instead of constant presence, depth instead of attention, emotional precision instead of romantic theatrics. And because their love is selective, they are careful with who receives it. They don't chase or cling. They don't spread their energy thin. They wait for alignment, for someone whose emotional wavelength matches their own. That's why when they love, it feels rare. It feels intentional. It feels like a gift that wasn't given lightly. To be loved by an introvert is to be chosen in the deepest way possible, not loudly, but unmistakably. Their love may be quiet, but once you experience it, you understand why it sets them apart from most people. When introverts finally stop trying to fit into a world that misunderstands them, something powerful happens. They begin to live in a way that feels honest, grounded, and peaceful. And anyone who's ever truly known an introvert knows this truth. Their quiet nature isn't a weakness, it's their greatest form of strength. If this spoke to you, remember, there's nothing wrong with being the quiet one. In fact, it's your superpower. Before you go, drop "Queet Power" in the comments so I know you felt this message. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more deep psychology and introvert wisdom. Your journey matters, and you're not walking it alone.